We've all been there, standing in front of the fridge, holding a carton of milk that's a few days past its expiration date, wondering if taking a sip is a harmless choice or a terrible mistake. That small printed date has an incredible amount of power. Once it passes, most of us don't even hesitate. We throw the food away. But what if that date doesn't actually mean what we think it means? What if expiration dates aren't strict safety deadlines, but something closer to guidelines? Because the truth is, many foods are still perfectly safe to eat long after the date printed on the package. And misunderstanding those dates leads to massive food waste every single year. Today, we're breaking down how expiration dates really work, who decides them, what they actually mean, and when they truly matter. And if you enjoy uncovering the surprising truth behind everyday things like this, consider subscribing to the channel. It helps us keep exploring the details most people never question. Now, let's unravel the mystery behind expiration dates. The assumption is simple. Before the date, the food is safe. After the date, it's dangerous. That belief shapes how we shop, cook, and eat. It's why yogurt gets tossed even if it smells fine, and cereal ends up in the trash, even though it's still crunchy. But here's the problem. That understanding is mostly wrong. For many foods, the date printed on the package has little to do with whether the food will make you sick. Instead, it's usually about quality. Things like taste, texture, and freshness. Once you realize that, expiration dates stop looking like hard rules and start looking a lot more like suggestions. And that's where things get interesting. One of the biggest surprises about expiration dates is how little regulation there actually is. In many countries, including the United States, there are no strict federal rules that dictate how food companies must determine expiration dates. Instead, manufacturers are largely responsible for setting them themselves. That means two similar products made by different companies can have completely different dates, even if the food inside is nearly identical. Most of the time, these dates aren't based on when food becomes unsafe. They're based on when the manufacturer believes the product will no longer be at its best quality. Taste, texture, appearance, and freshness all play a role. So while expiration dates feel official and scientific, many of them are actually educated estimates, chosen by companies, not regulators. Part of the confusion comes from the fact that not all food dates mean the same thing. You've probably seen labels like best by, sell by, use by, or expires on. They sound similar, but they serve very different purposes. Best by or best before dates are about quality. They tell you when the product is expected to taste its best, not when it becomes unsafe. Sell by dates are meant for stores, not consumers. They help retailers know when to rotate stock or remove items from shelves. The food is often still perfectly fine after that date. Use by or expires on is the closest thing to a true safety-related date. But even then, it doesn't always mean immediate spoilage. The problem is that these labels aren't always used consistently. And when everything sounds like a warning, people naturally assume the worst. So, how do companies actually come up with these dates? Most manufacturers rely on a combination of taste tests, storage studies, and laboratory analysis. They track how a product changes over time, how it tastes, how it smells, and how its texture holds up. But here's the key detail. These tests are often conservative. Companies don't want customers opening food that tastes stale or disappointing, and they definitely don't want to risk complaints or lawsuits. So dates are often set earlier than necessary, with a built-in safety buffer. The goal isn't just safety, it's consistency, making sure every customer has the same experience. That's why food often lasts much longer than the date suggests. Food doesn't suddenly turn bad overnight. Spoilage is a gradual process, and most products have a wide margin of safety beyond their printed date. Milk that's a few days past its date may still be perfectly fine, especially if it's been kept cold. Eggs, when stored properly, can last weeks beyond their sell-by date. And meat kept in the freezer can remain safe for months, regardless of the label. Shelf-stable foods last even longer. Dry pasta, rice, cereal, and canned goods can stay edible for years if stored correctly. This is why your senses are often better indicators than the calendar. Sight, smell, and taste usually tell you far more about food safety than a printed number ever could. Of course, there are exceptions. Highly perishable foods, like raw poultry, seafood, and certain dairy products, carry a higher risk of bacterial growth, especially if they haven't been stored properly. In these cases, caution matters. But even here, food poisoning is more often caused by improper handling than by eating something a day or two past its date. Temperature abuse, cross-contamination, and poor hygiene are usually the real culprits. Dates are a guideline, not a substitute for safe food practices. Packaging plays a huge role in how long food actually lasts. Vacuum-sealed meats can stay fresh far longer than meat exposed to air. Airtight containers help snacks stay crisp. And modern packaging slows down oxidation and bacterial growth. Preservatives matter too. Salt, sugar, vinegar, and certain approved chemicals are used to extend shelf life safely. That's why foods like canned soups, pickled vegetables, and sugary snacks often last far beyond their printed dates. In many cases, the food is still stable, just not at its peak quality. This misunderstanding has a huge consequence. Food waste. Millions of tons of perfectly edible food are thrown away every year, simply because the date on the package has passed. Consumers aren't the only ones responsible. Supermarkets also discard massive amounts of food once it reaches its sell-by date, even though much of it could still be eaten or donated. Some food banks and retailers are starting to push back, redistributing food that's past its printed date but still safe. But confusion around labeling continues to drive waste, costing money and harming the environment. Because expiration dates are so widely misunderstood, some governments are pushing for clearer labeling. Countries like United Kingdom and Japan have taken steps to reduce food waste by simplifying date labels. Instead of multiple vague terms, they focus on two ideas: dates related to safety, dates related to quality. In the United States, discussions about standardizing food date labels have been ongoing, but progress has been slow. Many experts argue that clearer language could dramatically reduce unnecessary waste. If expiration dates aren't the final word on food safety, what should you rely on? Your senses. Before throwing something away, take a moment to check it. Smell. If it smells sour, rotten, or just wrong, don't risk it. Appearance. Mold, discoloration, or a slimy texture are clear signs of spoilage. Taste. If it looks and smells fine, but tastes off, spit it out and throw it away. For dairy like milk or yogurt, a quick sniff and small taste test usually tells you everything you need to know. Hard cheeses can sometimes develop surface mold, which can often be cut off safely. Dry goods like rice, pasta, and cereal rarely go bad unless exposed to moisture or pests. So, should you completely ignore expiration dates? Not entirely. They're still useful for knowing when a product is at its best, and for identifying higher risk foods, but they shouldn't be treated as strict deadlines. Understanding how food actually spoils helps you make smarter decisions, save money, and reduce waste. In the end, expiration dates are usually about quality, not safety. They're conservative estimates, shaped by testing, liability, and customer expectations, not hard rules about when food becomes dangerous. The next time you're about to throw something away just because of the date, take a second look. Trust your senses, understand the context, and you might save yourself a trip to the grocery store while doing the planet a favor at the same time. If you enjoyed this breakdown, let us know in the comments. Are there everyday foods, labels, or habits you've always wondered about? Have a topic you'd like us to explore next? We read every suggestion, and we may even feature yours in a future video. Thanks for watching. If you found this helpful, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.